December 6th CRDA Land Use Regulation Enforcement Division hearing to order. This hearing has been noticed in accordance with the Senator Byron M. Baer Open Public Meetings Act. And if everyone would rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Appreciate it. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We have two items listed on our agenda. However, the first item, Mr. Talbaki, you want to speak on that real briefly, is B&B parking application number 2018-10-2513.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Landgraf. On behalf of Nick Talbaki, Cooper Levinson, on behalf of B&B Parking, pursuant to a letter I sent yesterday, the applicant is withdrawing this application.
Okay. Thank you very much. We'll take 1 minute while our stenographer changes tapes, or I know they're not tapes anymore. But
Yeah, we got so much on this. That one's Lou Cooper's. Most of my clients design. Because I talked to Cole and he said, screw it, I don't want to work with these guys.
No buses south of Pacific Avenue.
Although a casino can have one, but it's on property. Could. That's accessible.
what's that? Okay.
None of
Okay,
them-
the second item on the agenda is application 2018-11-2547, DGMB Casino LLC, Resorts Casino LandShark Bar and Grill. Now, Mr. Talbaki, you're here for that application. Why don't you introduce it? Or first, let me do this. Rob, can you confirm that we have jurisdiction to hear this application?
Yes, I've reviewed the proof of service provided by the applicant, and we have jurisdiction to hear this application.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Talbaki?
Good morning, Mr. Landgraf, members of the authority. On behalf of the applicant, DGMB Casino LLC, we're pleased to hear today for a site plan application amendment to 2012 LandShark approval. The authority approved the original project by resolution dated 12-130. The rules were the Atlantic City's land use ordinance at that point in time. Now they're governed by the authority's regulations that became effective January of this year. We think it's an exciting project. It's more commitment by this applicant, this owner, to Atlantic City. It's an increase in seating by about 142 seats to LandShark, which is in addition to the 376 originally approved in 2012. I'll go over that in some detail. I want to handle one bit of housekeeping. We did submit for the certification of paid taxes for November 1. LandShark and Resorts are part of the casino pilot. Under their regulations, the casino pilot payment is due the earlier of November 1 or when the state of New Jersey signs the interim agreement with a licensee. Resorts has signed that agreement. It's done every quarter for payment of that amount. We're waiting for the state to sign it. So technically, under current law, the November 1 payment is not yet due. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention.
Okay, thank you for that explanation.
So having said that, so this application, we'll go through it. We have Mr. Petrella, Mr. Ponzio, Mr. Barnhart here. The idea essentially is to liven up the boardwalk side of the project. So if you recall, all the seating is really oriented toward the ocean on the current project. And it's good, it's worked well. I think most of you have been there. The idea now is to take that dead space between the boardwalk and the building, which is basically beach and some landscaping, and add a 2,300 square foot deck, which will add 94 outdoor seats. In addition to that, the original project included about 3,600 square feet of retail near the front. And again, we'll go through this, it's just an overview. 2,600 square feet plus or minus will be removed. There'll be a remaining 1,000 square feet of retail. That 2,600 square feet will be converted to a 32-seat bar plus 18 dining seats. So, which will be enclosed within the current footprint. So the new part, in terms of going beyond the exterior of the building, is just the outdoor deck. Again, 94 seats there. And that deck does not connect to the boardwalk, another issue. And it's approximately 16 inches above boardwalk grade, but it's independent of the boardwalk. And here's Mr. Moles, who's General Counsel for Resorts, DGMB.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My apologies for arriving late. I drove about an hour to get here, so.
No problem. Glad you made it safe. Thank you.
We're just starting. So that essentially is the project, but we think it does exactly what the tourism district legislation intended, and by your own policies of the CRDA promoting the boardwalk, the beach, outdoor activity. The project does require 3 variances. One is under the new regulations CRDA adopted that prohibits more outdoor seats than indoor seats. This needs a variance from that.
Okay.
94 outdoor seats versus 50 indoor. However, I note the original project had more outdoor than indoor.
Right, okay.
So whether you look at it's just the new project as being non-compliant or overall, either way. So the old one didn't require that variance because that rule was not in effect then. So we're asking for that, and we think we can justify that. We think we understand the rationale for that rule. 2, we need a minor parking variance for 7 spaces. Now, Mr. England pointed out that we appear to be using the casino parking calculation, which we are, which we discussed with the authority. If this were a standalone restaurant, it'd be parking for 30% of the seats. How we looked at it, it's more of an extension of resorts, and therefore when you go into the casino hotel parking regs, there's X amount of cars, like the first 500 cars require first 500 rooms require 500 spaces, and then there's a calculation for non-hotel space, based on square footage. So using that calculation, this on an incremental basis adds a need for 7 spaces. The interior we ignored because we're just swapping out retail for dining, and it's exactly the same calculation. So only the deck is triggering an incremental increase in parking, and based upon the rule, 2,700 square feet of requirement, which Barnhart will go over, it's 7 spaces. We're asking for a variance for that because LandShark originally did not have any parking because Atlantic City did not require parking for piers. They had no parking requirement. We think it's rather de minimis in the scheme of things. There are other resorts projects coming down the line, parking and other things, and we just said we want to kind of keep this clean. So we're going to ask for the variance so this can kind of stand on its own. When we did the parking analysis of resorts, we're actually 1 space to the good overall. If you look at believe it or not, based upon a 2002 calculation when the new tower was built, the facility needed, let me just see here, 1,871 spaces. This was done by Shore de Palma back in 2002. And I had Rocky Merrill from Resorts give me the current inventory. It's 1872. And I did not give him that 1871 number. He had no idea. I was surprised it was 1 over. So I don't even want to use that 1 up. We may need it for something else. I'd rather just ask for the variance. I think we can justify it.
1 space.
Yeah, we're coming into a parking lot soon anyway, so we're going to be adding some new spaces. But we think we can justify this. One of the trams there, the jitneys down the street, and we think this is the kind of use that draws many people already in town, whether they're staying at resorts, Hard Rock, Ocean Resort, Bally's, Caesars, whatever. And then, of course, this area has plenty of commercial parking. The streets are all metered now, and because they're metered, it really makes more spaces available to the public because that forces turnover cars. So we think there's more than enough parking. We actually think Resorts itself has enough parking, maybe not from a calculation standpoint, but from a practical standpoint. So we're going to ask for that variance. And the third variance we think is very minor is we have a roof-mounted sign that fronts toward the boardwalk. The authority approved similar signs on the side facades of the roof, but we never had one on the side of the roof that faces the boardwalk. Again, roof signs are prohibited, but we think the aesthetics of this sign warrant a variance. We think the prohibition against roof signs really relates to the old style flat roofs where you had a lot of metal and just kind of an ugly billboard type sign. This is integrated, it's stylish, it fits in, so we think we can justify that on a C2 basis. So that's the 3 variances: more than 50%, more outdoor seating than indoor, 7 spaces for parking, and a roof sign. That's it from a variance standpoint. So with that, I'd like to have Mark Ponzio. Are you going to be providing planning testimony, Art? Sure. Okay. Why don't we have Mark Petrella go through the project, and then we'll go into the variances.
So you got him up now, you're going to tell him to sit back down?
Yeah, I was just thinking about it. It makes more sense for Mark to talk about the actual project. Mr. Petrelli, can you be sworn, please?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony here today?
Yes.
Could you spell your last name for me, please?
Petrella.
And for the record, you're a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey,
That's correct.
and you work for,
SOSH Architects for about 24 years.
and under your direction, your firm prepared these architectural plans,
That's correct.
and you're familiar with the project?
Yes.
Okay. So,
Mark that whole set.
Is this anything different than was submitted with the application?
I think,
No, the first board is A1 drawing that was submitted with the application. The only difference is that this is rendered out.
with color.
Okay, let's mark the application itself A1, and if there's anything other than what was previously submitted, we could go from there.
Okay. So, Mr. Petrello, if you could point to that plan view and
Right.
identify the existing facility and then where the changes are.
Yeah, so the existing facility is light gray. So that incorporates the interior restaurant space as well as the back of house area of the restaurant. In the light tan towards the beach is the exterior deck seating. Our work area is in the darker tones. The darker brown is the actual part of the existing retail space that is converted to a new bar area. And the darker brown outside of that is the new deck expansion towards the boardwalk that accommodates the additional outdoor seating for the bar. Just wanted to clarify on some of the numbers that Mr. Talbacchia mentioned earlier. The 2,600 square feet is actually the area of our scope of work. So it includes the area within the existing retail and the existing deck area that is going to be altered in this line of work. And then as far as the interior bar area, there's about 1,000 square feet of interior retail space that is converted to a bar. There is a portion of the existing retail space that will remain, which is indicated in this area of the plan.
Mark, if I could, one thing that our solicitor just indicated to me is that we need to recognize you as an expert in the field of architecture. And I've known Mark for quite some time and would make that statement that the authority will recognize his expertise in architecture and planning as well.
Right. Thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
So the deck expansion towards the boardwalk, as Mr. Talbacchia mentioned, will not be connected to the boardwalk. As far as accessing it, access will be from the existing entrance from the boardwalk to this hexagonal area. That is a flat area of the ramp that leads up to the main floor of the restaurant. That will be the entry point to the lower deck. So we're providing handicap accessibility to that deck. From that deck, there are 2 stairs that lead up to the upper deck, which is the main floor of the restaurant. But if you were to continue up the main existing entrance ramp to the main entrance of the restaurant, there is a second entrance to the new expansion area of the bar at that level to also provide handicap accessibility. I'd like to reference drawing A6. Again, this was submitted in the original packet. As you see here, these are rendered perspective views that show the overall design theme and character of the expansion. As you can see, it's really just kind of extending what is currently themed for this facility. As Mr. Talbacchia mentioned, the main goal is to kind of enliven this side of the building on the boardwalk side. So the proposal is to open up the existing wall, exterior wall of the retail space. There are currently large windows. The intent is to open that up. The new bar will be built to that exterior wall line, and on top of the bar we are proposing overhead glass doors so that they can be opened during the summer. So it's really going to activate that facade, and you can see how that expanded area towards the boardwalk will certainly enliven that side. Some other features that go along with the theming of the facility, you can see in this view, we've got festoon lighting that are mounted to poles that are actually on the new deck. They're not connected to the boardwalk. And those festoon lights actually drape back to the existing roof line of the building. There's the roof-mounted sign that's being proposed. then also along the boardwalk, the intent is to provide planter boxes, so provide some level of screening along that side, but also leaving the view open for passers-by.
So Mark, the plantings that will be in those planter boxes will be kind of low grass type things,
That's
not,
right.
not heavy buffering. So I think that more the intent of the project seems to me is to open up to the boardwalk. I guess there's a reason why it's not being connected to the boardwalk. It's not because it's not a pier. Is that why it can't connect?
Well, the elevation.
There was an elevation change too, that's
But
right.
also, there's always a concern with the ABC, well, they don't have ABC, but alcohol.
Right.
And I know at the ABC level, and I presume at the commission level, in terms of the alcohol license, they like to have a separation from alcohol
Okay.
service to a public area.
Right. Makes sense. Thank you.
There is one other drawing I want to reference, and that is one of the elevation sheets that were included in the submission package. So this is drawing A3, and just wanted to point out, in reference to the new roof-mounted sign, this boardwalk elevation, you can see the profile of the new sign. The very peak of that new sign is slightly higher than the peak of the existing roof of the retail. But I also wanted to point out that if you look at sorry, now I'm referencing drawing A4, another elevation drawing that was submitted in the packet. You can see that this is the height of the new sign facing the boardwalk. It is actually slightly lower than the existing sign that was approved when this facility was originally built. Referring to the roof-mounted sign that sits on top of the main bar towards the ocean. So even though it does project slightly above the peak of the retail space, it is not any higher than what was originally approved.
You tell me the height from the boardwalk level to the top of both of those signs, the existing and the proposed.
The existing approved sign is slightly higher elevation than the proposed.
Right, I got that. Do you know how high it is off the boardwalk?
An actual dimension?
Yes.
I don't have that dimension. Might be able to get it.
Maybe, right. That's not right now, just by the end of the hearing, you can get that, that'd be good. If not, we'd ask as a condition that we just add that to the plans.
Sure. Anything else, Mark?
No.
All right, I'm going to bring Mr. Ponzio up and ask him to be sworn.
While they're chatting, while we swear, Mr. Ponzio?
Mr. Ponzio, if you could be sworn, please.
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth in your testimony here today?
Certainly do, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Ponzio, you're a New Jersey licensed planner for many years.
Yes.
And you are the president of Arthur W. Ponzio Company Associates.
Yes.
You've been qualified by the CRDA Land Use Board before as a planning expert.
I have.
I offer Mr. Ponzio as a planning expert.
Certainly accept those credentials.
Thank you. Mr. Ponzio, so you're familiar with the project, of course, and you were familiar with the original project back in 2012. And this project requires 3 variances. We talked about them: parking, the sign, and the new issue that was under the current rules is there's more outdoor seating than indoor seating.
Correct.
Okay. So what order? I'll let you pick. What order you want to talk about them in?
Okay. See how it goes.
I'll see how it goes.
Kind of related to that. Okay, good morning, everyone.
Good morning, Mark.
I don't want to thank you. I don't want to be repetitive what Mark and Nick said. They put some nice testimony on today. Very informative. Here's a picture, aerial photograph.
Is this part of our package, Art?
No, this is a drone shot that we took very recently.
Okay, let's mark that into the record.
We're on A2.
A2, all right. So, Art, is that an accurate representation, aerial representation of the project
Yes,
as
it
it
is.
sits today?
Yeah, very current, yes.
Okay.
You can see the orientation. It resorts across the boardwalk in that location. Right down lower right there, you see the tip of the ocean coming in North Carolina Avenue. This location, the new dune field out there you see, and the facility with the beach bar component. There's the Hard Rock Beach Bar right next to it, to the easterly side. This orientation, very interesting looking building. Stosh Market did a fantastic job on the original design, and I'm certain this one's going to follow suit with this addition we're talking about here today. Two or three, whichever, this would be three, is that what you, the number?
A3, yeah. Could you just tell me that?
A3 is the site plan, the variance plan, if you will, of the property. You see it, it's oriented with the ocean to the right side, the boardwalk and resorts to the left. And adjacent to the boardwalk in front of the existing building, you can see the shaded area, which is the proposed deck expansion that Mark and Nick both mentioned a few moments ago. Here is the sign that we spoke about, right in that location. I'll go through that in a moment. But as you can see, it's one proposed sign. I don't think it was on the record, 176 total square feet is the size of that sign.
And Art, is that below what's permitted in terms of the 25%?
No, significantly below that, Nick, well within that. Very modest size for this particular building and property. We'll talk about the sign now, if you want to go through that, Nick. It's positioned on the edge of that sloping roof, if you will. It's a hip roof, an octagonal design of that building, which has got 8 hips, all coming to a point in the center. It's a relatively low-slung building. When you stand back and look at it, it appears to be almost all roof. There's very little wall space on the building if there was any opportunity at all to put a sign on the facade. Certainly we would do that, but given the design of the building, I'm looking at Mark's picture here.
Yeah,
I'm
there
gonna
you
go back to his,
Lower right, Art.
yeah, architectural A6. In that perspective view there, bird's eye view, there is the proposed sign. Here's the boardwalk in the foreground. The proposed deck. There's no wall space at all. So we've been, there's
And you can see that on the lower right. Is that the right?
Okay, yeah, it's down from boardwalk level, yeah, that's correct, that's good, that's a good shot. It's all window space, roll-up doors, if you will. There's really no other opportunity to place a sign and face the boardwalk. The idea here is the building's is a bit disjointed from the boardwalk, a bit disconnected. It's been wonderful, it's been very successful, but the operators believe they want to, if they bring the building out closer to the activity closer to the boardwalk, they're going to take advantage of all the action that goes on the boardwalk in both ways. The people on the boardwalk are going to see that activity on the building proximate, right next to the boardwalk, which I think that's kind of where we want to head in the city, all along the boardwalk. Bring more opportunities for enjoyment, entertainment, dining, whatnot, right adjacent to the boardwalk. Let's just continue to do that. This summer was an interesting transformation of this section of the boardwalk. All this you had at the boardwalk in the summertime, you would come down to this location the last 3, 4, 5 years. I don't like to use the word dead, I should use the word pretty quiet. But this summer it was interesting. It became the hub of the boardwalk. I would mean from resorts down just to where Revel is. That all of a sudden became an animated part of our city, and walking the length of the boardwalk, it's actually more busy in that location this summer. It was more busy than the remainder of the boardwalk. It's almost like a switch of our business activity. So, and I'm up there so much in the mornings early on a bicycle and in the evenings and going out at night, and you could just see that activity just growing, and obviously attributed to what went on with Hard Rock, what's going on with resorts in this particular property, as well as the opening of Revel and the Steel Pier. It all just seems to be coming together, that synergy, and I know the CRDA has been involved in much of that, and it definitely is working in this part of our city. So anyway, back on the sign, if you will. So there's not really much opportunity, if any, to put a sign and face the front of the boardwalk and have that logo sign right there in proximate so that people can see it walking down the boardwalk. So looking again at the sloping roof nature and the way the sign is tucked into the roof, by definition it's above the eave line, so it's a roof sign. But in reality, when you have the sloping roof and the peak of the sign coming just about to the top of the roof, when you really can think about it, is it really a rooftop sign? It doesn't appear to be one. It's tucked into the roof. if you will. It's like a home that is built with a dormer out the side of the roof. Doesn't add to the roof. It's part of the structure itself. It's similar to that because of the location that it's built on the slope of the roof that it is. And the sign is modest in size as it is. It matches the architecture of the entire building. It brings out the logo of the operator, the LandShark logo. It's a very attractive looking sign. I think for all those reasons, I think it's in an appropriate location, it's appropriately sized, it's architecturally and aesthetically pleasing, and it is not objectionable in any way in that it doesn't go protrude well beyond the roof. It's to be seen strictly from the boardwalk, which is the obvious intent, to have the deck here with the sign directly behind it. That's the vision you're going to see standing on the boardwalk looking at that. So I think given those conditions, in my opinion, it's a very prudent location, and I believe one that should receive favor from the board.
So Art, in your opinion as a planner, does this meet the criteria for a C2 variance, which is this represents a better planning alternative than what's permitted? What's permitted would be a sign really on a wall that almost doesn't exist because of the glass. And then you also mentioned the architectural compatibility of the sign with the design of the building. So you think this is a better planning alternative?
I certainly do, Nick, and I think in all cases it does meet the requirements of the C2 variance.
And then the other part is the negative criteria. Any substantial detriment to the zone plan or the public good if the authority would grant this relief?
Sometimes signs can be objectionable, depending upon the orientation, size, location, and everything. I think because of the way this sign is designed, as I've described, and its location and orientation facing the boardwalk only, I don't see that there's any negative whatsoever associated with
And
that.
you pointed out that it's substantially less than what's permitted in terms of the size.
Yes, very modest in size.
And the height of this location for a structure would be 80 feet next to the boardwalk.
Permitted.
Permitted. So this is well below that.
I'm going to guess the peak of that. There was a question asked by Mr. Landgraf a moment ago. I'm guessing the peak of that roof is 25 to 30 feet. The actual roof, the sign, thereabouts, give or take a foot or two. It looks like by the illustrations.
So it's in scale with surrounding buildings, the building itself,
yeah.
and other structures on other piers.
Right.
Yeah,
So
very
you
good, very
see
good.
no substantial detriment to the zone plan in terms of what's permitted and what we're relief?
Absolutely
And in
not.
terms of impact to the public,
I think it's a benefit. It's a positive impact.
because it provides some sort of
Oh, yeah.
site identification?
It gives you identification, certainly, and it adds to the aesthetics of the overall building. I think without the sign, the roof is just a plain roof. I
So
think
it
looks
actually
very nice.
enhances the aesthetics of
It
the
does.
building? Okay.
No doubt.
All right, that's variance for the sign.
Yes.
Okay, next.
Right. So we talked about briefly it was talked about the seating. That's an interesting and somewhat unusual requirement that in all the years of doing this, I've never had to deal with that before. That is a restaurant facility with more seats outside than inside. And the more I thought about it, it kind of makes sense in locations, and in others perhaps it doesn't make so much sense, so we're going to talk about that a little bit. The very nature of this location and this building is pretty obvious. It's to orient this to the outside, to attract, if you will, the benefit of the view all around the property and the activity that goes on the boardwalk. This building is really, if you think of it in that nature, it's from the inside out, meaning everyone is coming to the building for the most part to enjoy the vista over the ocean and the beach on three sides, as well as, hopefully with this new addition, the attraction of the boardwalk. So let's think of this building take that building and put it on Atlantic Avenue. I don't believe I would be here asking for more seats outside than in. Pretty obvious. But in this location, there's a major difference. The entire reason, in my mind, my opinion, why this has been such a beautiful success for the city and for the operator is the location of the facility. That is tucked out beyond the boardwalk, over that dune, elevated properly with meeting FEMA and all that business with the elevations, and having that panoramic vista. We've all been there, I'm sure, and you sit out on that deck and whatever you happen to be doing, enjoying some food or drink or whatever, you kind of can just stand there all day and you get lost in it. It's just absolutely wonderful. And that is what this building and what this LandShark operator is all about. Let's embrace the outdoors. Let's take advantage of what we have surrounding this property, and let's face the people, and if you will, the seating outward. So in the years they've operated this, what's it been, 5 or 6 years now?
2012.
Yeah, okay.
13.
Oh, that's right. It was built right when
It's
Sandy
actually
was
opened
hitting.
May
That's
of,
right.
it's May of 13, I believe.
Yeah, it just started construction when Sandy was coming. That was interesting. Okay, so back on this. The deck that's being added in the front of the building, they have this experience of this 5 or 6 years that of operating this building. And the customers that habit the facility enjoying that outside ambiance, as I mentioned. So here's a perfect opportunity to expand that ambiance, and to have the outdoor seating adjunct to the boardwalk directly across the street from the main casino facility. So it's a perfect fit, if you will, and it's going to bring that building and the use up tight to that boardwalk and enjoy all that activity and the things that I've been saying all along. So in this particular case, I think the request for the variance to have more outside seating than in, certainly we're not abandoning in any way, shape, or form the fact that this is a fully serviced indoor restaurant facility, but we need to expand, we want to expand outward to enjoy the different things that I've been saying in the last few moments. I think in this particular case, because of all of that, this is a variance that's well justified, this request. Situations like this may exist in other positions throughout the city, but they're very limited. Those opportunities are very limited.
Art, you had mentioned before the hearing to me that you were trying to think about why there's a prohibition against more outdoor seating than indoor, and you mentioned, well, maybe the CRDA is concerned that we just not have these outdoor areas in some token indoor space that's not a real restaurant, doesn't really serve. In this case, when it's all said and done, there's going to be 30 interior seats with the expansion and 290 exterior. So the 230, that's a real restaurant.
It sure is.
Yeah. So it's not some attempt to avoid building a building and having.
No,
and also, you pointed out to me that the outdoor seating is somewhat limited in because of weather.
It's seasonal, yeah.
So, but the interior is open all year.
Correct.
The exterior is it's just not going to be used, right? So when you really look at it on a usage basis, there's probably going to be pretty much more there could be more interior seating overall. You average it out throughout the year than exterior, but close.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, I agree with all that, definitely.
So does the proposed variance have outdoor seating in any way, in your opinion, counter the presumed intent of the ordinance to make sure we have a real restaurant with outdoor seating, not just really an outdoor seating area?
No, it does not. I think that following what you just said, obviously this is a full-service restaurant. I mean, there's no question about that. And this is the outdoor part of it, adjunct to it, very important to have it, and I think critical to the successful operation and the continued expansion of the business, which is what we all want. We all want our businesses here in town to be able to expand and grow and prosper more and more into the future. And this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, I want to point out that 116 of the outdoor seats are permanently covered. If you've been there, you know they're covered. They're outdoor, but they're covered. We threw that into outdoor seating, but it's kind of a hybrid. They're covered with a roof. They're open only on one side. It's closed behind it. But just that's an important fact. So there's an argument there's actually more interior seats if you count the covered seats, but we threw them into the outdoor to be conservative. So in your opinion then, does the benefits of the extra seating outside outweigh any detriments? Does it advance any purposes of zoning?
Yeah, in this particular case, without a doubt, that it's much more beneficial. That is, this project, to have the seating arrayed, as I've mentioned throughout my testimony, facing the outdoors, embracing the outdoors. And I think it advances all the benefits, all the precepts of tourism that this board, that the City of Atlantic City, and
Because
all
tourists like to sit
operators-
outside, right? People like to sit outside and dine.
Absolutely.
So, from a C2 perspective, is this a better planning alternative than what the ordinance would strictly require? Or not the ordinance, the
Yeah, I'll answer it.
regulations?
I'll say it this way, definitely. I gave you an example of taking this building and putting it on Atlantic Avenue. Well, let's take the building and leave it here. Let's get rid of the outdoor seating. Anybody think it would be a very successful building? Maybe, but with it, it's just night and day difference. So, yes.
And in terms of the tourism district legislation, which wants to return Atlantic City to a more traditional beachside resort,
Yes.
Does this kind of outdoor seating promote that legislative goal?
No question that it does, yes.
So in terms of the negative criteria, any detriment to the zone plan or the public good,
I don't see any negative whatsoever associated with that request.
and nothing to the public either?
Absolutely no detriment to the public whatsoever. It's an enhancement to the public's opportunity to enjoy the outdoors and embrace the beach and ocean boardwalk.
Okay. And then the final variance is 7 parking spaces.
Yeah, another interesting requirement. I've often said many times that some cases are shore towns, not all of them. Lance, you've heard me say many times that if we find ourselves needing more parking, it's a good thing. It means business is going well. The city is prospering. We deal with it in other cities. And it's an issue to be dealt with properly, and I would say in most cases the boards and the governing bodies, they do deal with it in the right manner. There's many cases going on in our island communities right now where ordinances require a certain amount of parking spaces and applicants just don't have an opportunity to do that. So you turn applicants away because you don't meet an ordinance requirement for parking and you let your city stay as it is, or do you encourage new business? And if you have new business, and you have maybe a short of parking or whatsoever, if people like your business, they're going to find a way to get to there. And you put it all together, and even during the busy times, in reality, it actually works, regardless of ordinance requirements or anything like that.
Art, did you have an opportunity to talk to Resorts Management about their 5-year experience with this in terms of parking demand?
Yeah.
And what was the response?
Typically, the preponderance of the customers come from the building itself. There are customers that walk up and down the boardwalk, no question about it. Myself would walk up and down the boardwalk, stay at one of the facilities along the ocean front, walk up and down the boardwalk and go to the LandShark. It's a wonderful opportunity.
So they're already parked in town somewhere?
Yeah, they're already counted. Now, how many would actually come just for this? There are some. I've done it myself again, and I know friends that have done it. You'll come from out of town, you go to that destination, you'll park your car. But that's a very small percentage of the numbers. But regardless of that, let's look at what's in the area here. And again, I'm going to be very brief because you all know this, but just a Google shot. From the east side, starts from the 7,000 space parking garage at Rebel. Then you have all the...
Can we mark this board?
Yeah, A4 on that
That's
road.
right.
Yeah.
Then you have all the parking opportunities at the showroom facility, and surface lots, another parking garage across, garage under the building, surface lot adjoining the building. On the west side of Showroom, taking you down all the way through Taj Mahal, not Taj Mahal, excuse me, Hard Rock. Forget it. So much parking opportunity here, the surface lots. This lot is converted into their gas station facility. Their large garage, this location, secondary garage here, keep moving west, brings you down to the resorts properties. There are preponderance of surface lots, and you can see, it's a little grainy in this photograph, but you can see the preponderance of surface lots throughout the area, all the way down to Central Pier and beyond, moving to the west, down Mount Vernon, Indiana Avenue, which is just off the picture, the former Sands Casino site, a large parking facility in here. So there are ample opportunities, literally thousands and thousands of parking spaces here.
There's also metered spaces all around there.
Metered space street, I didn't count that. The streets, many of the streets, not all, Nick, many of the streets are metered for on-street parking. So there are lots of opportunities. If you look at the scope of this and think of this in the context of this area, I'm pointing to the center of the photograph. That is the LandShark. That little shaded area right there, that's the addition. So we do need a parking variance to put forth what we're talking about here today. That is the area we're speaking about. Look at it in the context of the neighborhood, if you will, is extremely de minimis, this request is, in this area. That's important. I mean, if this was an isolated location somewhere where we didn't have this activity and this opportunity for parking in the area, I wouldn't say what I'm saying now. But this is so de minimis as compared to the whole. There's shared parking of someone coming in one facility, walking down the boardwalk, going to our facility. There's the preponderance of our customers coming directly from resorts, which all the parking is provided for with next space to spare. That's your private parking space, that one space. Okay. So there's plenty of opportunity there. There's a sharing all along the boardwalk and throughout Atlantic City for the most part. There's a sharing of all the parking. It worked when the city was, I hate to say much more busy, but let's just say there were more people here. It works now. It obviously will continue to work in the future with or without the addition that we're talking here
In
today.
2012, when the authority approved this, there was no parking requirement despite the 374 seats.
Correct.
And from your information you have from management, has there been adequate parking for this facility?
Absolutely.
And in fact, in your experience, isn't it in the best interest of a owner to have sufficient parking to support the business?
Well, yeah, whenever you have an opportunity to provide the parking, of course it's the right thing to do there.
So what I'm saying is a little different, I think, is that if the owner thought it needed more parking to make this successful, it would provide it somewhere.
That's the way you stated it there, yes, no doubt about it. If an owner had a business and the business was doing well, but the business was hamstrung because there wasn't enough parking, the first thing he would do is go out and find more parking. That's not the case here.
And this owner has over time added parking for various purposes over the years.
There are plans to continue doing that in the hopefully very near future.
Right. Finally, there's the trams on the boardwalk, which allows easy access from up and down the boardwalk to the site, plus the jitneys on Pacific Avenue. Does that mass transportation help alleviate any need for parking?
As I said a moment ago, it all works, and that's part of the formula. The mass transportation, the boardwalk, the pedestrian, as well as the tram activity on the boardwalk. You add it all up, and that's why it works.
And one more phenomena that I've noticed is that people who go out to drink now, many times will use Uber or Lyft because they don't want to drive and drink. And that, if you get an Uber ride, I noticed personally, you don't need a parking space.
It seems to be a rage, especially with the young folks. I see that, my young boys and whatnot, and I'm sure you're all very, very aware of that. And that's a pretty good
So
thing.
this is a bar and restaurant, so in your opinion, with the fact that people are now using alternative means to reach this facility, again, Uber, Lyft, and taxis and whatnot, and the awareness of drunk driving, encouraged less need for parking?
Certainly does.
Okay. And then, so in your opinion, given the de minimis nature, the availability of parking, the lack of any parking problems the owners experienced over the years, can the board grant a variance for this in terms of it's a better planning alternative not to add more asphalt if it's not needed? Is that?
I don't think it's needed, and it is a better planning alternative in this particular case, given the particulars of this case, no question.
And then do you see any detriment to the zone plan or public good if the authority were to grant a variance for parking in this case?
Certainly not.
You have anything further?
No.
I think that completes our presentation. I know there's a letter from Mr. England. I want to clarify one thing between what I said and Mark Petrella said in terms of this space. So just so, Mark, correct me if I'm wrong, as I understand it, we're renovating 2,600 square feet in the current building and we're adding a 2,300 square foot deck outside.
That's correct.
Okay, I just want to make sure we're
Thank
clear
you.
about that.
I believe Tim more than I did you anyway, Nick, so.
I'll leave that alone. But all right, so go ahead.
Also, the height of the sign, the proposed sign from the existing boardwalk is about 32 feet to the top.
The proposed sign.
Yes.
All right, and do you know what the other sign is, the higher one, the one behind it?
Slightly higher than that, I don't know.
Within 2 feet?
Yeah, probably within 2 feet.
Okay. So 32 feet measured from boardwalk grade to the new sign height.
Correct.
Right, and the permitted height at that area is 80 feet?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
So we'll go to our consultant report now. Justin, you want to go first?
Sure.
Mostly, you can swear him in as well?
No, he remains under oath, and recognized as a professional planner, providing testimony on behalf of the authority. And just before you jump into this, just want to mark this D1. This is
Letter dated November 28, 2018, revised to the 4th of December.
thank you.
This is a letter, a joint letter from Mr. England and my office. I really only have very, very minor planning comments. There are 4 listed in the letter that are plan related. Your testimony was quite comprehensive, and I really don't have the only question I have With respect to the additional seating going in between the building and the boardwalk, with respect to security, how would that be managed? That's really my only planning.
Yeah, and Mark can go through this, but there's no direct access from the boardwalk. You'll have to go up and then in. And that's my experience, that's going to be an alcohol control regulation. There will be, you're talking really about alcohol or just a general?
Well, yeah, I mean, my only question really relates to how people are going to access the ingress and egress from that location, whether that's going to be manned, by someone, just to ensure that there aren't any conflicts from people coming from the boardwalk or going from the seating to the boardwalk that maybe shouldn't be.
Okay. I frequent that place today, and there's a lot of traffic in and out. There's management there. I don't think there's going to be any security guards, but there is a host that controls the inflow in and out. There's plenty of staff in that area. In my 5 years of going there night, day, I've never experienced any issue. But Mark, if you could just clarify or go over access to, my understanding is
Is it access? You can say it's not direct from the boardwalk.
yeah, it's not direct from the boardwalk, which
Your both sides should, okay.
yeah. And so, what exhibit are you referring to? Or this is part of the plan set, right? So what sheet is
Right,
that?
this is sheet A6, which are the perspective views of the exterior. So this bird's eye view shows that there is no access directly from the boardwalk to this new deck area. The entrance will be from the existing ramp from the boardwalk to this landing, intermediate landing, hexagonal landing. At that point, that's the entry point into that lower deck, and that's where the host station will be.
Great, thank you. And then the other comment or question, Mr. Pondio, would you say that this application in the aggregate does advance the purposes of the master plan and the tourism district as well?
I would say definitely it does, yes. For all the reasons I testified to before, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Bill, you have anything to comment, please? You have to put his credential.
Yeah, we have the referring to the same letter revised December 4th of 2018.
Just before you start, for the record, Mr. England is the Casino Redevelopment Reinvestment Zone Authority's engineering consultant who will be providing engineering testimony on behalf of the authority today.
So in listening, one of my comments was about the parking, and I believe based on the testimony that there's sufficient documentation that existing available parking is sufficient for this proposed addition. A lot of my comments were related to the boardwalk. One of the comments maybe someone can add just a little bit more information to regarding any additional trips or things of that nature for food, drink, and supplying the restaurant itself based on the additional seating. Maybe you can just spend just 30 seconds on how it's working now and what kind of extra demand that you might see.
Is it going to expand anything like that?
Or is anything going to change from what's currently being done?
Yeah.
Mr. England, for the last 5 years, and this was extensively discussed in 2012, the deliveries come up over the boardwalk. No trucks right there, wheeled up.
No,
It's
correct.
wheeled up. And it will continue that way. And hopefully there'll be more business, but again, since there's no trucks going up there, we think there won't be an issue. We
I
have
just
an
wanted to
extra.
reconfirm that. I was aware of that, and I just wanted to reconfirm that nothing is going to
Hey,
change.
you were the engineer back then, right?
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
And of course, a lot of the comments relate to, as far as the relationship to the boardwalk itself and its condition. And of course, I'm going to be constructing up there. We had taken some measures when this facility was originally done to make sure that the boardwalk integrity was, still remained any repairs that were necessary for taking care of. So
Yeah,
that's where most of my comments were centered with respect to protecting the boardwalk, during construction and afterwards, and even before, to make sure we understand what's there. So there's no finger of blame pointed anywhere.
And of course, for purposes of construction, we'll obtain the required boardwalk or street permits to go over the boardwalk from the city engineer's office, as they have resorts that's very experienced after building that building and maintaining it, and it knows what to do, and we will follow the city's requirements in that department.
Absolutely. Mr. Chairman, I have no other comments.
Okay, thank you.
Art has one comment.
Bill, when you're talking about the boardwalk, I wanted to mention one thing to you. When the steel pier wheel was installed, we had to enhance the structured capacity of the boardwalk. So on the west side of Pennsylvania Avenue, the ramp is enhanced, the boardwalk is enhanced to get across, which is just, would put you just to the west side, right here at LandShark. So from here to the steel pier, the boardwalk is enhanced to take trucks activity for construction vehicles. I'm thinking during construction more than during operations of the facility. So the boardwalk's enhanced. The ramp can take it underneath the bridge to the Hard Rock, connecting the Hard Rock over close to resorts. And there's actually a small service road connecting between the east side of the LandShark to the west side of Steel Pier inside the dune. That was built so that the Steel Pier could have their heavy vehicles cross the boardwalk safely and then go down the beach onto the Steel Pier. So we can use that same the opportunity here for the construction of this, just to let you know that.
Good, I appreciate that, and, you know, I wouldn't want to have something like a, you know, maybe like a crane or something fall through the boardwalk, so, you know, we wouldn't want to have something like that.
And just for the record, Mr. Lambrecht, we do have a CAFR application in process for this
Okay.
expansion.
I believe that's one of the conditions that we set.
Yeah, it's, Mr. Jerome is handling it, Jerome Associates, and there's not going to be any issue. We've talked to DEP, but we have to go, we tried to get it to be exempt, but no go. So, but we're going through that
It's
process.
always worth the effort.
It's worth a few phone calls, but no go.
As always, any and all other outside agency approvals would be a condition of our approval of the application. With that, do you have anything else, Mr. Tabaki?
I do not. I thank everybody for their time and attention, and happy holidays to everybody if I don't see you.
Thank you.
Yes, yeah.
Anything from you, Rob? You got anything?
No, I'm good.
All right. Scott?
Nope.
We're good there. I will open the meeting up to the public. If anyone here, please step forward, state your name,
I
and
think it's all us.
just making sure. For the record, show that no one is here from the public. We'll close that portion. Bring it back again, nothing from our end. We'll close the testimony on this matter. Nick, it looks like we'll be on for our board in January. The meeting is on the 20th. We're just a little too close to that. So
Yeah, no,
we'll
we
be on
understand.
our full board meeting in January, and that would be January 15th.
Okay.
January 15th. And as always, I would ask someone from your office or the applicant to be there in case there's any
That's
questions.
the board meeting is the 15th?
It is, yes. I think that's all I have. I will close the testimony on this matter, and our next land use hearing is on December 20th. We do have one item so far on that agenda.
I think it's me.
I think it is. This meeting and all future meetings will be held at Atlantic City Hall, Council Chambers. Just to note, we do have the ability to use the projector, so we can, boards are fine, but if you want to bring the projectors or your plans on a flash drive, I have a computer.
You have the computer, we just need
Yes.
to bring a flash drive.
I'll bring a flash drive. Same setup, just with one screen behind me. We'll use that in the presentation. So with that, we will close today's hearing. And again, as Mr. Tawaki said, happy holidays to everyone. And we do have a meeting on the 20th, right before the holidays.
I'd just like to introduce Rocky Merrill, who came in a little late. He's in charge of facilities and construction.
All right, Rocky, good to see you.
Sorry for the interruption.
That's okay. That's all right. Quite all right.
Thanks,
All
everybody.
right. Thank you. We'll close the hearing at this
Thank
time.